You're listening to the IMT Show with Mike Sims. Now here is your host.
So one of the first things I did when I landed my Dynasty job is I again I had just moved from being homeless and sold my computer to have money to move back uh, into my mom's house and get back on my feet, get a job. And so when I did land the Dynasty job, I called up the car finance company, which I was behind like 4 months, and said, "Hey, I'm sorry, I'm way behind. I got a job. I moved to Houston. I got a job. I'll catch it up." And the finance company, they um, they said, "You've been such a good customer till this point. We actually wanted to know if you want to refinance uh, everything, and just we'll just start you off new." So they did, and then I ended up trading that car in for a my first brand new car, which is a black Camaro, 95 Camaro. And I love that car. And the first thing I did was went back to Austin where my friends and that was still work for Dell. And we had talked about storm chasing because my friend Dell that worked at Dell had lived in West Texas. So he was very familiar with tornadoes, and I always was fascinated with storm chasing. And I had a brand new Camaro, so we went storm chasing and had some very interesting adventures. The averagely experienced storm chasers hit about 10% of their chases. They see a storm. It's getting better now with better technology, but back then it was about 10%. Uh, we were hitting about 90% seeing tornadoes. Even got even chased one storm all the way from Texas into Oklahoma, where it had split off into two major cells. We followed the one on the left. It actually passed over relatives of mine that live in Binger, Oklahoma, and they were just coming out of their storm shelters as we pulled up because we were following the storm from behind. That's where the tornadoes usually are. And they were like, "What are y'all doing here?" And I said, "We're chasing that storm." And they said, "Well, that storm chased us in our shelters." And we visited them for a while, and then it came over on the sources that we had that a tornado warning was in effect near Oklahoma City. So we jumped in my car and started speeding down the road, and there was about a dozen NOA storm chasers in their little cars with their uh, wind meters and everything, rigged up on top of the roofs. There was about a dozen of them in a line, and I flew past them, made it right into the area where the tornado was supposed to be, and it was quiet. I had no idea I was in the bear's cage. And so I'm asking my friend who's sitting next to me, I'm driving, and his wife who's in the back, and they're like this, catatonic and staring at the sky. And I'm like, "Talk to me. What's going on?" And he says, "Yeah, it's right above us and it's spinning." And I knew that we were in trouble. And I peeled out of there. And as soon as I did, I looked at my rearview mirror and I could see the ground effects of the funnel starting to hit right where we were. And it moved across the road and ended up like knocking some cars into each other and then moving off into a field. But that was our close call at that time. We went out the next day, and again we went back to Abilene area in an area called Sweetwater, which is right next to a little town called Roby, which is where they filmed the beginning opening sequences of the movie Twister, by the way. We always started off from where his parents lived in that area in Sweetwater. And there was a storm in the border of New Mexico and Texas, near Midland area. We made it there in an hour, which was incredible. And when we got there, we caught it with the storm. It was near La Mesa, and it was on the ground, and it had just crossed the road and had snapped all the telephone poles like toothpicks. So we were catching the tail end of the storm because it was getting late. The next year we planned our trip, and a project at work ended up rescheduling our vacation, which we always took in around Memorial Weekend in May, because that's the high time of tornadoes. And it scheduled it for the next week, so we didn't get to go that exact week. But the area we were going to be in that week that we missed was the Gerald tornado. That was devastating and horrible. But there were 10 tornado warnings in that one line of storms, and we would have been right there. That's where we planned to be, in Central Texas. So the next week was a high pressure system, and nothing was happening the whole week. So we were driving around and just touring. It was just me and my friend. His wife didn't come that time, and we saw a storm chase group at a gas station parked there. We recognized it. It was at the time it was I believe it was called Cloud9 Tours, and really cool guys, really cool people. They had a really nice tornado chase touring for regular people. They would take you out and show you tornadoes. And so we're out there, and they had a Japanese film crew, and they saw us, and they came and they interviewed me about storm chasing and everything. So I ended up on some Japanese documentary somewhere about storm chasing. I've never been able to find it yet, but I had there was the scientist was traveling with them as a favor, because he was good friends with the owner of that tour group, and he had this El Camino that had 1 million stickers all on the side of it, and he had his science equipment in there, and the bed was full of equipment and stuff, and he was very eccentric guy, and he ended up he was using some terminology and saying, "I'm in it for the science," not the glory and all that. And of course, we're just amateurs. And he asked me, he says, "Well, so what are y'all guys going to do?" And I said, "Well, we're going to hang around the Highway 20 area around the Dallas Fort Worth area, so we have access to the Oklahoma border, and because there's really nothing happening. So maybe something will happen there." And about that time, the tour guide came out and had his notebook, and he had just read the weather reports, and he was telling the scientists, I think, that we should head up to the Dallas Fort Worth region, and that's the only possibility of something happening right now. And the scientist looked at me and says, "Good guess." And I said, "Thanks." So still nothing, we didn't find anything. But later, I looked up the guy, and he was the consultant for the movie Twister. And the line that he told me was the line that Bill Paxton used in the movie, that he was in it for the science. And there were pictures of him, with the crew and the cast members, and so that was a cool thing. That was worth the trip. Okay. Well, I don't know what to think. It's my daughter just turned 18 not too long ago, shortly after Christmas, and she passed her driver's test and got her driver's license. I don't know where the time has gone. I really don't. It seemed like yesterday I was carrying her around, as a little baby. But she is very very proud of her. She is, as far as kids go, she has been breezy and easy. I just you get the typical teenage attitude from all teenagers, but she keeps it on the down low, and she's always been very generous and very helpful in all her endeavors. She has got her own company, her own business that making parts out of computer parts, called Smart Parts, and when she makes jewelry out of them, she upcycles computer parts, which we talked about in when she was interviewed here. But I just it's just strange having a daughter that's 18 years old. I just where did the time go? She and what's strange is that, like me, every time she gets behind the wheel, somebody does something stupid somewhere and she has to evade them. And and she's done very well in avoiding people doing dumb things. And it takes me back to when I had, when I was taking a driver's ed. Our driving instructor was the superintendent of our school. And he was, we were all, of course, very nervous because he was the boss of the principal. But he was actually a very cool guy. He one time had I guess, moonlighted a chauffeuring the group Led Zeppelin around, which is, I asked him, I said, did you hear anything, what they talked about? And, music lyrics or whatever. And what was it like, driving around? And he said that it was like driving businessmen around. They were very smart, very knew what they were doing, and it was like a business meeting. So that was kind of interesting. But he was a funny guy, because you're expecting him to be extremely, as a superintendent of a school, extremely straight-laced and mature, and he was. But there were times when I was driving him, and we went down a road in Austin called 183, which is probably one of the most dangerous roads I've ever been on. It's famous for a lot of crazy stuff happening. And so I'm going down this road, and it's just me and him. There's it's 4-lane road with a chicken lane in the middle. I'm on the outside lane, and this lady in this car waits until I'm almost on her, and she pulls out right in front of me. I jarred the car to the next lane. Immediately, the superintendent rolls his window down and is shaking his fist and cussing at the woman. And then he turns around and looks at me and he says, in a real straight face, we don't advise doing that, in traffic, and that's not the proper attitude to them. But she really pissed me off. It was funny, and we had another incident where we were going back to Lago Vista from Austin, and Austin is a lot of hills, and particularly going to the road to Lago, the roads go way up a hill and then down a hill. So you don't know who's on the other side of that hill until you're right up on them. And sure enough, as I'm coming over this hill, an 18-wheeler, it just flies past us and almost gives him a heart attack. And he looks at me, he says, I'm glad you were calm, because that definitely scared the crap out of me. But no, he was a funny guy, and I really liked him. But in similar fashion, my daughters had experienced the same things here in Houston, dealing with the crazy drivers here. For the most part, people are courteous and easygoing, but people make mistakes. People are not paying attention, and particularly these days with cell phones and so forth. You almost need a separate cell phone car horn to honk at people at traffic lights, because they're sitting there texting, when the light changes. You just get irritated with that. But she's managed to avoid those situations as well. But I don't know, 18 years, where did it go? Where did the years go? It just blows my mind.
Hey, Mike Sims, Michael Beck here, Swan and the Warriors. I just wanted to congratulate you on your Vicky series. I understand that it's in consideration right now for a TV series. That is awesome, dude. I'm so happy for you. That's great. And I understand that Vicky is a real tough chick. Speaking of real tough chicks, you remember Deborah Van Valkenburg, who played Mercy in The Warriors? She is a real tough chick. During the filming of that movie, she got hit in the head with a baseball bat, and it cut her eyebrow in two right here. So the rest of the movie, she had to wear a spit curl to cover up where the sutures were, and thereafter the scar. And if that wasn't enough, during the scene where she and the fox are running through the subway station, the stunt double fell down the stairs and pulled Deborah down with him, and she broke her arm. So then she had to wear that red, that blue jacket over her pink top. You know why? Because it covered up a cast. She is a real tough chick. And Vicky is a real tough chick. So I hope Vicky gets on the little screen and kicks some butt. Congratulations, dude. Very happy for you. God bless you, Mike.
Thank you for listening to the IMT show with Mike Sims. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The IMT show is an opinion show and not to be taken as serious personal, legal, tax or financial advice. It is meant as entertainment only. IMT show, Mazarov or Mike Sims is not responsible for ad content. For more information on show schedules and content, visit www.mazarov.net/IMT.